Hey everyone, this is David Lamka, creator and host of Next Evolution podcast. And to start, I would like to open up, share my story, and help you understand why it is important to take time to look at our deepest wound, to transform them into your own greatest unique power. Why it is important to look at our stories, to rewrite them, to reinterpret them, to share them, so you can fully align with your life purpose, so you can live a more fulfilling life, a really truly authentically you. Society, as it has conditioned us, that do not allow us to do that very difficultly. It is not made for people to really be authentically creative, loving, powerful. And this podcast just wants to share insights, ideas, inspiration, so you can be yourself, grow into the most that you can be, the most loving, the most powerful, the most creative. So during this coming hour, I will simply tell you, share with you my story, who I am. My roots, my family come from Czechoslovakia, communist country, that at the age of 20 years old, my father escaped, going through different borders. Bulgaria, escaped, went to Turkey, and found asylum in Switzerland. And he was almost kicked out and almost refused asylum, but thanks to an NGO that helped him, he was able to stay. And he communicated with my mom, who was in Czechoslovakia still, and she came to see him. And she had that intuition that she would have children with him. Ta-dam! And that's where my older brother and I were born, in Switzerland, from asylum seekers, political refugees, in a country where they had no roots, no family, barely no friends, where they started from scratch and literally scraping plates, cleaning cars, doing any kind of job until they found a social working job helping heroin addicts in a center where for more than a year they were helping there, working there. And that's where I was born, basically. And my mom discovered her path of social worker there, which she pursued the rest of her life. And my father clearly realized that he was not made for this type of life. So a year after, when I was born, 1983, they went into the city, and with some money that they received, they both started a startup. They entrepreneured in a foreign country with no friends, with little money. And my mom started a antique and thrift store from clothes from Czechoslovakia and antique stuff. And that did not go very well in this very little town, 30,000 people, where I was born, where we used to live. And my father, already entrepreneur, visionary, he bought a sound and light isolation box container, and we had it at home. And it's a place where you float on salty water and you don't hear anything, and you can have basically you can have a rebirthing experience, a transpersonal experience. You can relax also, simply. And that was 40 years ago. And that did not go well, so they both went bankrupt. And they started again. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts I got from my parents, is wanting to create, wanting to be independent, wanting to be an entrepreneur like my father. And My mom gave me her social skills also. And also, she always was very spiritual, very open, very kind of cuckoo crazy or woo woo crazy since forever. And that is a part I deeply rejected in her until I embraced it and I realized, hey, I'm cuckoo woo as well. I'm completely spiritual. And so she opened the path for me to be spiritual, to prioritize spirituality in a ordinary life, to be of the world but not from the world, to really be grounded, to have the feet on the ground, like embodied. I'm here, I'm alive, but also I'm so deeply heartfelt, spiritual. And during those first years in Switzerland and our little town, I found a way that to best be loved by my parents, to best feel accepted by them was to be perfect, to really be the best at intellectual tasks. So I was the first in class at school. I would do my homeworks by myself. I wanted to go to school. I was 2 years and a half and I asked to go to school and I would go morning and afternoon. And I was just very, very independent, very responsible and very smart. And that was the way of, if I don't make mistake, if I'm perfect, I will be loved by my parents. And we all have a wound like that shaped our way of relating to our parents, which is our way of relating to everyone in life. And it's really important task for every one of us to look at that most ancient wound, look at it, feel it, re-encounter it. And even though our ego hates it and doesn't want to feel that feeling and state of loss, of despair, of just complete feeling like we're going to die. But that is the only way. Being in touch with that most ancient and deepest wound is the only way we can emerge from it with new tools, with new gifts, like our hero's journey of confronting our deepest fears. Hey, I just want to take a few seconds to make this podcast about you right now. And I want to ask some self-inquiring questions. What are those gifts that you received from your parents that today make you your authentic self, make you who you are? What are those qualities that without your parents, you would not be as beautiful and shiny and inspiring as you are right now? What are those? And also, I want to ask you, what did you do so you could feel loved by your parents? What did you think you had to do to be loved and accepted by your parents? Connect with that wound, with that ego schemes of yours that is impeding you from connecting truly to your authentic self. Thank you for doing the inner work. Let's get back to our story. When I was 12 years old, my parents starting a separation and divorce process that was very unconsciously managed and brought a lot of challenges in me. And I started going on the other polarity because life and the universe is dual. It has polarities, masculine, feminine, love, hate, loss, gain. Instead of being the smartest and the most responsible, I became the least one. So I started blowing up stuff in the village. I would go in the woods and go wild. and I repeated a class, and I was very young, and I started just not understanding anything. And that was a very important learning for me, that we need clarity in life. We need conscious communication. And that wound of separation left me with fear of money. Money is bad. Money is dirty. Money breaks up marriages and families. And it also helped me see that I'm a mediator and that I can help people gather, groups, and I can just create spaces where, in that case, my parents, after years of fighting, I invited them for dinner. I cooked. I was 16 years old, I think. And we talked and we just told each other that we love and that, yeah, shit happens and it was not great. And since then, our family could align together again. When my parents became good friends, best friends for a long time. In each of those moments of feeling lost, abandoned, I found tools with therapy as well. It was very helpful. And also, I stayed on my journey of extremes. I started extreme sports. I was looking for adrenaline. I found a tribe that would help me thrive into that. I was very young and started partying, drinking, smoking, and traveling, rollerblading, traveling through Switzerland and through Europe until I was 24 years old. I did that, and I really, really loved it and enjoyed it. It was really a call to adventure that helped me make the decision to go to the US for a foreign exchange year when I was 17 years old, and I tried almost every kind of drugs, and and I enjoyed that life of studying little, going wild, having crazy friends, doing crazy sports, traveling like a nomad basically. And I loved it. Those were years of inner destruction and outer destruction. I broke many, many bones, and I still have pains in the lumbers that are due to all those crazy years. But at the end of high school, I was in front of the wall, in front of the precipice of what the heck am I going to do next year? And I decided to work for a year and travel. So I worked and I traveled the world, rollerblading, partying. And I came back from that year thinking that I wanted to be a marketing, creative, advertising creator, and I couldn't enter into a creative school. So following my father's idea, hey, let's be a lawyer. It's going to open doors and I'll have time to think about what I really want to do. What I really, really, really wanted to do when I was a child, I was passionate about Egypt. Egypt was just like a magical, mystical environment that was calling me. So I bought a book on hieroglyph. And for the first time, I took a plane with my mom when I was 10 years old, 8 years old. And we went to Britain, to London. We went to the British Museum and we saw sarcophagus, mummies, hieroglyph. And I was, wow. And when I wanted to become an archaeologist, I wanted to become Indiana Jones for sure. I went to visit an archaeologist and he said, you're not going to work on anything interesting. I was dissuaded to follow that career. I didn't do it, unfortunately, maybe. Who knows? And I was also passionate about learning English from a very young age. I wanted to meet. Now I'm laughing because it was Neil Armstrong I wanted to meet. So I wanted to become, or at least to meet, an astronaut. So I started learning English when I was, I think, 4 years old. Hey, you. Yes, you, listener. How are you doing up to now? I hope it's not boring. I hope it's useful and inspiring.
And I want to make that podcast about you again. So let's go deeper into self-inquiry and ask yourself, what did you want to be when you were a very young child? Between 3 and, let's say, 10 years old. What were you passionate about? What was your inner call that was most unique to you? What was your answer to people asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up? In this answer lies a very deep wisdom that your soul came with that information and brought to you so you could integrate it into your life. Maybe you did not fulfill that call, that dream, but very likely you developed new aspects, new ways of living it that very likely today you are embodying some of this truth. So again, who did you want to become when you were very young? And now let's get back to our story.
On that journey, starting law school, partying crazy, 5-6 days a week, I would party. I would never go to classes, and I would only study for exams, and I would pass my exams just barely enough for 3 years. At that point, I wanted to learn Spanish and decided to go for a year abroad. And I decided to go to Argentina. At that same moment, I met a wonderful woman and my first real, true love, I would say, which lasted for 3 years. The moment I was leaving to Argentina for 6 months instead of a year, because I wanted to keep that relationship, she was going onto a Catholic pilgrimage in Tibet, China, and she was on a spiritual path. I was not. I went to Argentina. The first week I was there, I was rollerblading with some crazy people, and I fell very badly. I was paralyzed for a week in my bed in a foreign country I didn't know, a language I didn't speak. I was in pain, couldn't move, and I found a therapist who helped me put my back together. And for 2 days, I started feeling some crazy energy moving inside of me, where really I felt universal love. I felt like, wow, something is happening and moving inside of me. And I started hearing a very subtle voice, a whisper inside of me, telling me to change my life. What I didn't know is that it wasn't only about health. It was really about transforming my way of living, stopping the destruction, inner and outer, and starting adding value, starting constructing. So right away, the message was clear from this voice of intuition, of my higher self, of God, of whatever you want to call it. A voice of wisdom I couldn't hear before. It was start organizing conferences, help people gather and encounter their own truth about really challenging subjects. And all of that was happening and bubbling inside of me. Second week being in Argentina, and my girlfriend calls me from China, and I just on the phone tell her I'm going to change my life. I can feel this love for the world inside of me. I'm going to start creating and I'm going to organize these conferences. And she felt very silent. And we hanged up for a couple of days. I was wondering what's going on. I don't know. She called back 2 days after from China, telling me the exact same story. She found this inner love and she's going to change her life. And for her, there was something different than my experience. That it was very clear. It was Jesus. It was the Catholic path. It was this community, Franciscan community. And she said, we were praying. I was praying to discover my path. And I got scared that you would not understand me. So we all, with 20 kids that were on this pilgrimage, they all started praying for me. And we had a spiritual awakening basically the same day on the opposite side of the planet. Her explanation was very simple and clear. It's Jesus. It's Catholic Church. My explanation was, I felt something. I felt some deep universal love, and I felt my intuition. And now looking back to that story 20 years after, I would say it was a Kundalini awakening, because I felt that energy moving from my lumbar, back of the spine, is where I was wounded, and I had that experience. Yet at that moment, I had no idea why it happened. So I trusted my ex-girlfriend, and I said, okay, I will go onto this path of Jesus and Catholic Church. I was in Argentina. I started organizing conferences. I started questioning a politician that came at school, and he wanted to present his political views. And I basically asked him, hey, are you corrupt, or are you going to lead for rich and poor, everyone together? And he started attacking me, saying that Swiss and Switzerland and its bank secrecy is the cause of every corruption in the world. And so that moment was a tipping point, because everyone at school, suddenly at the law school, they all knew me, and we all started talking about corruption, bank secrecy. So those were the first conference cycles that I organized, and I created an association in Argentina and then back to Switzerland. That was in 2007, 2008. I came back to Switzerland, and I started going to church. Basically, I went extreme because I loved the extremes. So I went all in. I would go every morning to church, to mass, do the adoration of Jesus, of the bread, of the Eucharisty. I would go during the week, and I would spend the weekend in the church and just spend hours just adoring and feeling Jesus. And I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. It really fulfilled me. I realized I was so spiritual, and I had completely forgotten that part. It was not part of my life for 25 years. So at that moment, I'm back in Switzerland. I'm finishing my law studies that I never really liked. I was never meant to be a lawyer. I did graduate from law school. I was organizing conferences, and I met amazing, interesting people following that lead, that voice of wisdom telling me, start gathering students around challenging themes. And my life became my passion, and my life transformed. And I was cuckoo crazy with Catholic path. I went for 3 weeks to spend with this Franciscan community, which we were just working all day, praying, adoring. It was amazing. I loved it. Yet I never felt really comfortable with that Catholic path. I always felt that I cannot defend all those thousands of years of mistakes they've done, of abuses they've done. And it was hard to put the hat of Catholic at home, where I was bullied and laughed at, or my friends, but I was like, I'm a spiritual warrior. I'm doing this.
Hey, beautiful soul. Now it is the moment for me to ask you about your spiritual awakening. Did you have one? How was it? How did it impact and change your life? I want to invite you to reflect on how much you change and how much you owe to that spiritual awakening, that tipping point moment of your life. That was a before and after. Inviting you to see it, feel it, and cherish it. And if you do not recall having had an experience like that, then I want to invite you to think and feel what is a spiritual awakening for you, and what would it mean for you to have such an experience of divine encounter, of pure love. How would it impact your life? And what would you want to experience and learn from it? Thank you for doing the inner work. Let's get back to our story.
So when I was invited to organize events for Catholic business people, entrepreneurs who wanted to gather and mix spirituality with business, how to be conscious businessmen, basically. And I helped organize beautiful retreats and big events in Switzerland that were gathering European leaders. And thanks to that, I was invited, by a miracle, I was invited to Chile in 2009 by some entrepreneurs and people who organize events for 500 people, 1,000 people, gathering the most diversity that you can find on the planet. So at the table, round table, you will be sitting with the richest person in Chile, with someone living in the poorest neighborhood and that has to step over dead bodies to go to school. Some artist, some Jewish, some Catholic, every religion, every perspective, every way of life was gathering in that event that I was invited to, and it changed my life. And we talked about our challenges, about life. We danced, we sang, and I was like, this is it. This is my path. We broke up with my ex-girlfriend, heartbroken, and it allowed me to go to Chile to work in the Swiss embassy. For a year, I worked in diplomacy after law school, just figuring out if that was for me, that path of embassies, diplomacy, and it was a lot of ego and a lot of wind moving and not much result and a lot of bureaucracy that was not for me. But that took me to Chile. At the end of 2010, I was offered a job with my friends to organize a conscious leadership event. And the purpose was, we're going to impact many lives. We're going to change those 250 international leaders that are going to come on top of a mountain for 4 days, 4 nights. They're already positive leaders. We're going to put them on steroids. So that was the purpose. And we challenged ourselves to create a methodology that was unique to help those people really, really encounter from the heart, meet from their shadow, from their wound, and to go deeper into their strength to create new ideas and new projects. In order to do that, we invited the diversity of people to help us create this methodology. Facilitators, coaches, meditators, spiritual people, business people. So when we created that methodology for a year, we created it and we gathered those 250 amazing leaders, some very famous ones. And the purpose was to change their lives. What I didn't know is that it was going to change my life as well. 2 weeks before this event, I had a bicycle accident, broke my thumb ligament, and I have some metal in my body again. I was not working basically during the whole event. I was just another participant. I was not on the payroll at that moment. I was just, okay, David is wounded, just enjoy the event. So I did. And talking from and about our shadows, our wounds, and finding the light into our stories, but also putting words onto our life purpose. And we had to write down on our name tag, David Lamka, my purpose is, and for the first time I put words onto it, saying, I help people achieve their dreams. And with that, I realized, okay, I need to find a new career that helps me do that. And I met those really inspiring, beautiful human beings. They were life coaches. They had a coaching school. They helped us create that methodology for a year. And I entered into coaching school 2012. And the model, Julio Olaya, one of the great personal growth master of Latin America, that he created was mind, body, emotion. So we did a lot of mind, and I could go deep within for a year to really understand my cuckoos, my challenges, my shadow. Started seeing that I had anger issues, that by wanting to be perfect, to be loved by my parents, and fearing mistakes, and so I would project onto others their mistakes. I would criticize others. I would have some deep repressed anger inside of me. 1 year of personal development to see that just touching the top and the tip of the iceberg. So finishing 2012, beginning 2013, I realized, wow, I need a lot more tools. I need to go in the body and the emotions, because the model was very superficial into embodiment practices, basically. And I realized, oh, finally, I'm not looking for my half orange, for my other half. I can be alone and I can be great by myself, and I just want to have fun and dedicate myself to coaching. And that's when I met who became my wife, Margarita, at that moment, 2013. And basically for 6 months, we had a long distance relationship, talking on the phone. We became best friends. We created a conscious communication system. And then I went to Ecuador, where I lived for 10 years and where I had really the most extraordinary, conscious, loving marriage. A beautiful setup to learn tools where we talk about everything. We challenge also when we have our shadows coming up, and not taking the bullshit and really doing the work. So with that, I studied for 3 years with another great master of personal growth in Latin America, Daniel Tarropio. And I learned primal dancing with him, holotropic breath work. I learned to work with altered state of consciousness and how to go within, but also how to help and support others go into those states. That healing can be instantly. It doesn't go through the mind and through the stories we tell ourselves, but it goes through the body, the emotions, the unconscious, but also the supraconscious. And it's really integrating it all through the chakras, through the polarities, and a great model that really, really beautiful. I just want to do a short prayer. I feel like it's the moment to align. And I do want to tell you that very often in those episodes and podcasts, we will do intention setting and creating a safe space where we can allow our heart to fully be connected and express themselves. So just a brief connection with the heart, with the breath, with the purpose of life that we all embody, and we all come into this life at this moment to experience something unique, something beautiful, something challenging. So may we all find this inner truth that reveals our soul purpose, that sparks divine joy, that opens the door to a really fulfilling life, to really a wow life. Thinking of that sentence from Jesus: be cold or be hot, but the lukewarms, I will spit them out So let's find what makes our life vibrant. Let's vibrate the highest that we can, and let's share that inspiration, that true love for humanity, and co-create together that new era that we are stepping into and that we are invited to co-create together. And this podcast is really simply an inspiration that can help us get some ideas, some feelings, some embodiment tools to go deeper. Aho. During 10 years in Ecuador, happily married, finding my tribe there, but also finding entrepreneuring, being independent, doing business consulting, organizing retreats, focusing on personal growth, on business growth as well, then on conscious leadership. And I wrote a book about transformational leadership and what it requires to shift our companies towards a culture-based, loving-based, empowering-based companies culture, or to start up like that. And also during my marriage, facing 3 losses, 3 miscarriages, very challenged in terms of sexuality, being a frustration that I used to have my whole life, and that during this 10-year marriage could not be transformed, even with the help of therapists and really dedicating time. But that item that was a challenge and frustration in our marriage became also a strength, because it opened the path to tantra and conscious sexuality, and what is sexuality and what is, and then really opening the whole perspective on what pleasure is and how it can be done. And so we would have our tantric day every Friday, every Sunday, and we would do a list of things we wanted to do together, and we would do them, and it was so beautiful. Also on that path, realizing that we had some pattern that we kept repeating, and the wound I was repeating was the feeling of abandonment. And I saw that as my deepest fear. I fear being abandoned by my mother, by the feminine. So I was very attached to my former wife, and it was my safe space, and I would want to do everything together, and I nurtured 2 little friendships and connections and things like that. And seeing this pattern of me attaching and wanting to be saved in a way, and feeling like a victim, disempowered, that needs someone else to help me. And she would go into the pattern of being the mother and loving to help. And so we had that pattern that also we saw it, we worked on it, we could not transform it. At some point, she realized she needed more freedom, and much more freedom. So we took a break, we explored open marriage, open relationship, and that's where I learned and I strengthened conscious communication, conscious relationship, conscious coupling, conscious uncoupling. And really, how can we thrive? How can we be fully, authentically ourselves in a loving relationship? I realized that I want to have a great loving relationship, the best ever. And I want to be the greatest I can. I want to embody my full potential. For that to happen, for myself and my love relationship to be the most wow possible, it requires that the person in front of you in your partnership also to be that most authentically empowered human being. And that requires a lot of courage to let go of control, let go of attachment of what is, and being open to what can be. Because if I am free, if the other is completely free to be who you are meant to be, who you think you are meant to be, then anything can happen. And that requires first chakra, third chakra, personal power, grounded, empowered, courageous.
Hello, beautiful listener. How are you feeling? There is a lot to unpack, and I really want to bring that conversation, that story, towards the most important, you. I want to ask you, what kind of extraordinary, inspiring love relationship do you want to experience in your life? And I really invite to radical honesty. I do not believe in lying. I do not believe in cheating. I believe in total transparency and being able to say what we feel, what we want, what we need, what we desire, what our boundaries are. So, what are your deepest desires in terms of sexuality, for example, with your partner? What are the conversations you have not had yet that you fear to have? And what does it mean for you to be truly authentic in your couple? And then, are you ready for the other in front of you, your partner, to truly be authentic, whatever that means? Those questions will help you understand and design what love, what sexuality means, how important it is for you, how do you want to live and experience it. And also, if you have the tools, communication, emotional intelligence, conversational, to create that beautiful, inspiring vessel, love, relationship, partnership that you deserve. All right, let's get back to our story. So that's all I learned from those beautiful teachings from being in this conscious marriage, conscious uncoupling for now 2 years. And we recently divorced, and it has been, let's start with the greatest gift of the separation. I went to Europe during our pause, our break, and I went to Mind Valley University in Estonia. And if you don't know Mind Valley, check it out. It's an amazing technological education platform where you can learn about anything with amazing, really inspiring people. And they do great on-site events. They bring communities of really loving people, empowering people, and people who want you to thrive the best and the most you can, whatever that means for you. Be abundant, be inspiring, be all that you can be. You can have it all. And this is my tribe, thanks to that event in 2022. I went there and I was able to give a workshop. And I tried giving a conscious leadership workshop. That's what I was focusing on because my former wife was so good at giving embodiment practices like breathwork and primal dancing that I really let her the space to do that so I can be the greatest also in something else. In Mind Valley University, they did not accept me giving conscious leadership workshop, so I proposed primal dance and they accepted. So I was like, oh my God, I'm in the official program. I'm giving this workshop tomorrow in front of 80 or 100 people. So I prepared the workshop and I loved it. I felt so good, so alive, so inspired. And I was voted out of 70 people like me, tribe members, out of 70 people, I was voted the best workshop. And that changed my life because I realized, oh, wow, embodiment practices is my path. This is my medicine for sure. My goodness.
And without that separation, I might have not realized that. So this is one of the many things I teach, I offer, I practice. It's through dancing, through narratives, through facilitation, through the chakras, through polarity, masculine, feminine energies. Oh my goodness, you can grow, you can learn, you can expand in a way, you can heal, transform, transcend beautifully. And just before our pause, we moved into a town that was 4 years ago, I believe, 2020, and in a small village town in Ecuador, full of shaman, full of plant medicine, and full of freedom and authentic people looking for authenticity, authentic life. And I entered into the shamanic path of plant medicine, and I went to many ayahuasca retreats with a beautiful shaman that I can recommend, really. And ayahuasca, San Pedro, mushrooms, rapé, the tobacco that you blow in the nose, all those plant medicine that come from the indigenous wisdom, ancestral wisdom, that, to my perspective, has helped me connect with my heart and with unconditional love. The plant medicinal path opens a door towards multidimensional mindset, a lot more than what I see. A lot more than what I see is possible, is experienceable, and thinking that only what you see is true is completely ludicrous and crazy. Plant medicine has helped me feel more love in my life and feel more creative. And also it's a path to feel the call and to take with precautions, the who's, the where's, the how's. And I have also integrated those tools in my sharing with the world. So all in all, realizing that this path has taken me onto, for more than 15 years, I have organized retreats for leaders in Switzerland, in Europe, in Ecuador, in Chile, in Latin America, in Colombia, in Turkey now. So I organize retreats, I share embodiment practices, and I help people really deeply connect with their heart and their soul. And those learnings and teachings came from challenging moment of life. Those challenging moments helped me breathe and realize that, wow, if I take the time, if I allow myself to scuba dive and go deep into those emotions and those stories and everything that happens around it, and trusting the path, trusting the wisdom, remembering that we are spiritual beings having an embodied experience. Trusting that just helps bring the gifts that our highest self, that the divine, that God, that life wants us to experience. We are all meant to experience our soul purpose. We are all meant to experience being creator and creative, being powerful and inspiring, being loving, being able to host and be able to gather people through conscious communities, conscious communication, conscious relating, to really feel grounded, trust, feeling confident, feeling courageous. And all of this going up towards this joy of life, this intuition, and this connection with the greatest, with the divine. In the next episodes, I will share my medicine. I will basically share my heart, share who I am through tools, through guests, through stories, through experiences. And remember that for me, only talking about something is not going to change much. Let's not only talk about change and transformation, let's experience it. Let's embody it. So after each episode, at the end, we will dedicate some time, either myself or with the guests, to share a practice, to share a tool that will help you really embody the 1 hour spending listening to a podcast. How can we embody it in our entire being? Body, mind, soul, emotion, spirit, energy in a few minutes. So what you hear is also what you get and what you learn. So today's practice is about looking at your own story. Today, you are meeting the host. Now meet the host. And I want to invite you to take some time to write your story of wounds, of pains, of challenges, and of beauties. Take the time that it requires. If it's 5 minutes, if it's 5 hours, do it. Journal. Journaling is one of the most beautiful tools to grow, to remember what you've been going through, to connect the dots, to be creative. So the first invitation today is journal about your own personal story. And what we're going to do now, after you have either written your story or simply put in your mind those important moments of your life, challenging moments of your life, I invite you to close your eyes, to breathe deeply. If you're driving, please pause the car. Obviously, I'm sure if you're listening to that podcast, you've had the awareness to not drive your car and close your eyes. So thank you for that. Thank you for being self-aware. We're going to breathe deep. We're going to put a hand on our heart. And we're going to bring all those stories of challenges, of wounds, of hurtings, of feeling belittled, of feeling like maybe a victim, or feeling like somehow life is not fair because this and that happened. Let's bring all those stories to the heart. We are actually physically putting the emotions of those stories, feeling them through the heart. We breathe in. We take those stories, all the feelings, all the memories to the heart, to unconditional love. Breathe in unconditional love to your story. Breathe out. Let go and release all tension, all unnecessary stress that you put on yourself because of those stories. Breathe in. Self-love and acceptance to those stories. You were meant to experience each one of them. Breathe out. We release self-hatred. We release self-anger. We release rigidity about what should have or should not have been experienced. We breathe in authenticity. We breathe in freedom to those stories so they can teach us all that they need to teach us. We breathe in all the learnings, all the tools that those challenges are bringing us, or have brought us, or will bring us very soon. We breathe in all the companionship that we give to ourselves, to all our parts. We have wounded parts, we have challenged part, we have victimized part. All those parts, we just bring them love, understanding, and we release the pressure. We exhale, we release all the expectations that we might have built onto all our inner parts, inner selves. We're going to breathe in, we're going to open our arms, open our chest. We are embracing it all, embracing all the stories of our lives, all the challenges. We open as big as we can, embracing it all. You are perfect the way you are. You are exactly as you have meant to live, as you have meant to become. And we're going to hug ourselves. We're going to give ourselves the self-love. If you believe you have a soul, then very likely our soul decided on all those experiences previous to coming into this life, into this body. Our soul planned, signed contracts to what it wants to experience. The pains, the challenges, the growth, the gifts, all the strength, all the beauties, all the lights, all the shadows of your life. We decided our parents, before coming, which parents would bring us the most strength, the most growth, the most conscious living. All the losses, all the frustrations. Every time you did not win, it had a purpose. So you could become stronger, you could become more courageous. Giving yourself this self-love, acceptance, putting your hands on your chest, on your heart, and now connecting, inhaling with gratitude. We inhale gratitude for all of it, the whole Shazam, the whole journey, the whole experience. We inhale gratitude, gratidão, gratitude, dan, la gratitud. And all the languages that we know that can just help us remember. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, soul. Thank you, body. Thank you, mind. Thank you, spirit. Thank you, energy. Thank you, emotions. Thank you, all. Thank you, community. Thank you, tribe. Thank you, divine. Thank you, parents. Thank you, family. Thank you, politicians. Thank you, crazy psychopath. Thank you, loving holy saints. Thank you, everyone. You all have your role. You all come to teach me and teach us and teach all. That growth, transformation, elevation goes through challenges, wounds, acceptance, love, integration, transcendence. And we are all meant to become the most conscious, aware, loving, empowered, inspiring being that we can be. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Aho. I truly hope this episode was useful to connect with yourself, to connect with your next evolution, with our next evolution, to connect with a deeper purpose, and to be able to connect with a tribe. So if you liked this episode, please share it with your tribe, with your beloved, with your people. Please connect also through social networks, Instagram, Facebook. Let's continue growing as a tribe, as a community. Let's co-create together. Let's inspire each other to co-create this new era we are stepping into. I am David Lemka, your host for the Next Evolution podcast. See you in the next episodes where we will go deeper into heroes' journeys, transformation, growth, inspiration with beautiful, inspiring souls, and allow ourselves to grow each day. Thank you, thank you, thank you.